Mama taught me how to live. Daddy taught me how to give. Both of them had their own sins. Down to the river, every man has felt the shame. All our blood, it runs the same. Father, hear us as we pray. Down to the river, down to the river. Sing, oh, oh, bury me, carry me, oh, oh, far beneath, oh, oh, fire and water me, going down deep, singing, oh, oh, bury me, carry me, oh, oh, far beneath, oh, oh, fire and water me, watching me think, carry
All right, guys. So this week we're going to be talking about the equipment that we use minus weapons, because that's going to be a whole nother episode that we're going to record. But we're going to kind of talk about the clothing that we use, the packs that we use, camera stuff that Dave and I use to be able to film our hunts. And then that's even going to include the equipment that we use after the shot. So our knives that we use for processing and all that kind of stuff. So we'll kind of start off with clothing if anybody wants to start there.
I always just, so you can go to Bass Brothers for that, but I always just go to Walmart. And I'll just buy, I always get Realtree. I'm stuck on Realtree. That's my favorite. But like they've got windproof, rainproof, just pants, jacket, and all the way up to the point of bibs and coats for like $40 to $50 an item, versus you go to Bass Pro and you could buy scent lock, this, that, and everything for, $150 an item. And this Walmart, I mean, it's scent lock kind of material, windproof, waterproof, and everything. There's no point in going crazy. It's the same camo pattern. They all use Realtree.
So I use Realtree a lot as well. I have redhead stuff as well from Bass Pro, but I've had those for like a long time. But I think like the biggest thing for me that's changing now is I hate how bulky a lot of the insulated stuff is. I feel like I just can't move, or I feel like if I do move, I'm like the Michelin Man. So I've started switching over to wearing like the long johns and stuff that I've been given being in the military. So in the military, we use these cool things. We call them waffle tops, but they're level 2s for our cold weather gear. And they are warm. Like after I shot my buck this year, I had to literally strip down just to my long john shirt. It was low 40s. It was like 43 out. And I was sweating like it was 80 to 90 degrees out. And I was like going for a 3-mile run. Like I was dying. And they're awesome. So I've gotten myself down to pretty much now all that I wear is I wear my long johns, and then I wear my shirt and my pants. And if it's super cold out, I'll throw on my jacket over the shirt just because I wear a moisture wicking shirt. So I'll throw on my jacket over that, but my jacket is pretty thin. And then I keep like my insulated bibs and everything back at the house just because like bibs are just extra weight in my opinion. Unless it's like down in like the teens or lower, I really don't think that bibs are like super needed. I think that you can really get by with like a good set of long johns. And that's like a good investment to be able to make, especially like for those of you guys that bow hunt, because all that added stuff that's on like your arms or whatever, you're going to catch your bowstring on that stuff if you're not practicing in it. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to have to dress up in all that insulated stuff to be able to go out and shoot. Just to be able to make sure that I'm going to be able to make a good shot with the jacket that I'm wearing.
I always just keep my big coat and bibs in my pack, or at least buckled to my pack, and just have it to where if I get cold. For the most part, I'm like you are. I layer down with put the good, light, windproof, rainproof pants on, and then light jacket too.
Yeah. And then like boot wise, because I think that boots are a thing that get overlooked a lot in hunting. So this year I've been wearing my military boots because I'm lazy and I don't have the money to go out and buy new boots. But I'm getting ready to invest in good rubber boots so that I can have like the perks of how scent free that rubber is versus like My military boots obviously smell like a military motor pool. So they stink. And on top of that, they're hot weather boots. So the scent just really like reaps out of them from my socks and everything on the inside. But I think like an overlooked piece of equipment is also like hiking boots that like you can use on any hunts where you're walking a long distance. Like you're not going to want to wear rubber boots for an 8-mile walk. They're going to be uncomfortable. They're going to be bulky. Like a good set of hiking boots, like mid to low cut hiking boots that feel like tennis shoes, are going to go a really long way. So like I know that we've talked about possibly going out west and hunting at some point. You're not going to want to wear those muck rubber boots in the desert walking 8 to 10, 12 miles a day. You're going to want to be wearing something that's low cut, that's really comfortable. And I think that's something that a lot of people overlook.
So I got like a pair of just, $15, $20, Tractor Supply rubber boots I wear like come turkey season, this or that. And that way it does the scent, keeps your scent right. And they're, paper thin, but I can still, crossing the creek here so I don't get my feet wet. When it comes to the fall, I've got like 1,200 gram Thinsulate, rubber boots I got from Bass. It's the Cabela's brand, but Bass Pro now, either or.
Mm-hmm.
I got them for like, I think they were on sale, so it might be like $20-$30 more than what I paid, but still it was like $80. And my feet almost never get cold in them.
Yeah,
Granted,
and
teens, I put wool socks on with them, but other than that, like my feet never get cold.
Yeah, and I think that like a big thing is like knowing what you're able to endure being cold. Like if you're one of those people that you're always cold, you're probably going to want to keep on your bibs and your jacket and everything. And I understand that. But like one thing that you have to keep in mind is like, we talked about a couple weeks ago about how scent free that you want to be hunting. And if you're not scent free because you walk down there to your spot, that's a half a mile down, and you're sweating that entire way down, it doesn't matter what scent away you put on back up at the vehicle. It's all gone by the time you get down there. Like you've just sweated through everything that you've already put on. So you haven't helped out your situation any.
Right.
I walk down almost cold. Like, actually like a little bit cold, like to the point of like almost a shiver. So like you said, you take care of that sweat problem. When you get there, throw layers on. But like you said, last thing you want is the sweat. Then you're ruined. It don't matter. Like I run an Ozonics, even then, like I don't know how much that's going to do for you sweating.
Well, I mean, you've also got to remember, like that sweat's not going to help you whenever you start to, because like you're introducing a moisture to a cold environment. You're just going to make yourself hypothermic. Like you're not going to want to sit for a very long time if you're in those conditions. So like investing in good clothing is like paramount. Like you said, the wool socks, that kind of stuff that's going to keep you warm. Hand warmers are a super big thing. I love hand warmers because I hate wearing gloves. Hand warmers are like a super big thing that I always try to keep track of. I mean, I know Dad and I for years, we would just go out and buy like boxes of hand warmers because I hated wearing gloves. I couldn't wear gloves because I feel like I have no dexterity. I feel like I can't move. Like for example, the buck that I shot a couple weeks ago, if you watch the video, I'm having to like scramble to put on gloves because he's walking straight at me and I don't have my gloves on because I hate wearing them. And there's some other reasons that I'll go into here in just a little bit about the gloves, but
You're scrambling to put them on just because of your hands got cold when you came in, or just because you wanted cover?
Oh, because it was cold as hell out that morning. But I was putting on my gloves, but so I'll kind of go into the reason why I had my glove off in the first place, because it was only my right hand glove. So obviously like my release is metal and everything. So my release was going to be freezing. And then on top of that, my gloves, for whatever reason, they're supposed to work on my phone, but they don't. They're Redhead brand as well. I've had them for years. And they don't work on my phone. And I record with my phone. So I had to have my glove off just in case so that I get the camera rolling. So as soon as I got the camera rolling, I threw my glove on really quick and I got the camera turned over to him. And then I was good to go. But like that's another thing is like if you're going to be recording with something or using your phone a lot, like I know a lot of people do, that's something you got to think about is this glove going to work with my phone long term? Because the gloves worked with my phone for probably about the first week that I had them until I washed them. And then I'm pretty sure ever since then it's just hit or miss if they even work.
I've always had
Um,
good luck. That usually lasts a season or two, and then I wear out the pads. That's what usually makes
Yeah.
mine quit.
And then like I think another good thing to think about whenever it comes to this kind of stuff is the hand warmer pouches that you can get. Like I was going to invest in one of those this year just because I wanted a place that I could keep my phone at and everything where it was right there on me. And I felt like a hand warmer, like mock, where I could just flip open the top and be able to see into it would have been really helpful. I didn't end up doing that because I'm pretty much done for right now anyway. But
The other thing you got to worry, which that would be a good deal. So like tonight when I was sitting out, I had my phone out and I set it next to me for a little bit in the stand, and instead of putting it back in my pocket, and then it was starting to get closer to dark, so I grabbed it, just kind of checked the time, and put my phone back in my pocket. Well, it went from like 40% battery to 10% battery and like froze up and like died on me. And then I had to like warm it up, turn it back on and everything. Like, so a good spot to keep your phone warm, but yet easy, ready to grab, if you're going to film with it.
yeah, absolutely. And that's like another big thing. And we'll talk about that here in just a little bit whenever we get down to the recording stuff is getting good quality equipment. But we'll move on from clothing unless anybody else has anything to chime in on clothing.
I pretty much use Realtree like David. I've recently started going to Walmart myself. He kind of turned me on to it.
So we'll move on to optics and kind of talking about like the optics that we choose to use and why we use the optics that we use to include any kind of harnesses or anything that we use. So I'll let anybody else take off with that one first.
I'm stuck on, I've had Nikon, I've tried Bushnell, because Bushnell's the bang for your buck. I've tried Nikon, I've tried, a few other different ones, but I'm stuck on Vortex. I haven't seen a glass. I mean, which you're not supposed to shoot, but even in like, it's too dark now, like pack it up, go. It's shooting lights over. You can still see through them scopes. So you can run it down all the way to the last minute of shooting light. Yeah, you'll still be able to see through your scope a little bit, but shooting light's over. It's over. But the binos and the rangefinder, like even before shooting light, I can see what's there and get ready to where the point it's time to shoot. I already know what I'm going for.
I think that's a really overlooked thing whenever it comes to binos is your glass quality. So I use Bushnell Prism 10x42s. And we were kind of talking about this earlier, but the reason why I use 10s is because they're a really good middle ground. They're not like super high magnification where like, if I've got a deer at 40 yards, I'm not going to be able to see it because I'm going to be looking into its brain. But it's not like so low power that if I've got a deer out there at 80 yards through the woods, I'm not going to be able to see what I'm looking at. So those 10s are like a really good middle ground for me. But those Bushnells are kind of the same way. They're like the higher end Bushnells, the nicer ones from years ago. And they work really well for me. I'm able to see before sunlight gets up. I hunt a lot of mornings. So for me, like being able to look through that glass, 20 minutes before opening light and being able to see what might be out there moving around is super beneficial, especially for the area that I hunt at here, where I'm hunting like the edge of 3 bedding areas coming into a food area, going back onto water. Being able to see that first movement is super crucial. I mean, that doe that I shot came in probably 3 to 4 minutes after opening light. And if I had cheap glass, I would have seen her, obviously, because she walked right at me, but I wouldn't have been able to like know as soon as she walked out, okay, it's a doe, because I've got a couple of really small bucks in that area that obviously I didn't want to fill a buck tag on a 3-inch spike.
Yeah.
Don't blame me on that one.
Yeah.
Well, either way, you still have to wait till you totally identify your target. But either way, you had a game
Yeah.
plan planned out before the situation happened.
Exactly.
Yeah, I use Nikon 10x40 or 10x50s, and I like them because I like to look from the field into the woods quite a bit. So I'm looking at 150 yards plus sometimes across the field and into the woods, and I've spotted many a deer still inside the woods, and I can usually tell if it's a doe or a buck before it comes out. Now, whether or not I can tell you how many points, branches can really fool you on that. So sometimes you just got to kind of wait till they get out in the open, or try to get them closer to the open to where you can see them better. But
That's close to any binos, really.
well, yeah.
Timber will fool you. Because I used to run Nikon's 10x42s, and I have Vortex 10x42s, and like the quality of vision is kind of the same. It's just the only thing I liked a little better about the Vortex and the Nikons was I could see them a little bit sooner and a little bit later. It's about the only difference.
I can believe that.
Oh yeah. What about rangefinders? So I know 2 of you guys don't have rangefinders yet, but rangefinder wise, what are you guys looking at on rangefinders?
Personally, I was actually just looking at rangefinders. I'm not sure what I'm gonna go with. I was thinking either Bushnell or Nikon. I
I
like
have
the
like 3
Nikon.
spare Bushnells at my house.
Okay. The Nikon binoculars I have are 7x35s, and I really like them mainly because for the most part, I'm up until recently, I was in pretty dense, not very far distance woods that I could see, or it was open field, so it wasn't that big of a deal for me. The binocular, or not binoculars, the rangefinder, unless I'm going to use one of yours that you already have a spare of, I'll probably go with Nikon as well. I just like them the most. Probably going to get a 600 range in case we have that hunt next year.
I hope you're not shooting 600 yards with your bow, but I mean, if you are, more power to you.
Yeah.
Well, it's what we're going to be hunting at. That way I can see all the way out there and, all right,
Yeah.
they're 600 yards away. I know I don't have to be extremely quiet right now. I can move and get closer.
Well, I'd hope you could just kind of like look out there through the open and say, "Hey,
I
that's a
understand
pretty
that.
good
Don't be a
damn distance.
smart
I could
aleck.
probably
Come on,
move
give the boy a
around a
break."
little bit."
Uh-huh.
So when I bought my Bino rangefinder, like a kind of double pack. They had it on sale. My binoculars were a 10x42. But my rangefinder's the Vortex Ranger 1300, and it does range out to 1300 yards. And I can hold the measure button and scan the field, and it'll tell me different yardages as I'm scanning.
Oh, that's nice.
That's actually super cool.
I will
Yeah,
say
and
that
I can
I've
change-
looked through his rangefinder, and it is pretty cool.
That's actually a super cool feature. Because like, how many times have you been sitting there looking at a deer and you're like shaking so bad because it's cold, or you got that buck fever going or whatever, and you could not get a range to save your life on that deer? You're ranging like 10 to 15 yards behind it or whatever. Like, that's a super cool feature to be able to sweep it and be like, okay, I know that I hit it. I know that's what that range is. Because like I use Halo. Go ahead.
It ain't like a pinpoint, like bang, 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 So it's like, is it kind of steadies? It'll give you something. If you scan over and you kind of steady, it'll give you something. Like you still have to kind of steady up, for it to range it. But I just hold the button, I can scan the field. Like, all right, this tree's this far, scan over. This tree's this far, scan over. I ain't clicking the button each time and whatnot.
So I use Halos. That I got those as a gift for Christmas, like 5 or 6 years ago. And I have the XL 1000, so I can range out to 1,000 yards. There's no way I'm going to range out to 1,000 yards with a 6x Bino, but I have it just in case. But I will say, like, the one thing that I hate about those Binos is how fast the battery dies in them. I've went through 3 batteries this season already, and I've hunted like probably 30 days. And granted, I go out and I target shoot a lot. Especially using like the field course where it's unknown distances. So like having it, I've used it a lot more than what I have in years past, but it is crazy I've went through that many batteries. But one thing I do like about it, and I'm sure that a lot of binos have this capability, is they have an illuminated reticle. So I can illuminate the reticle so at those low light times, I can still be able to see what my rangefinder says, because nothing is worse than pressing that button and not being able to read what your range is with a deer standing up there.
Binos or your rangefinder?
My rangefinder has an
Okay,
illuminated
you keep saying
reticle.
binos, you're confusing
Sorry.
me.
I'm sorry.
Mine's got that same feature. I can switch from black to red to green.
That's nice.
Yeah, so
And
mine has a
then-
red and black.
And then another nice thing is, like you mentioned, your battery deal. I've had mine for 3 seasons, and that's going to 3D shoots, tournament deals, where you have to range every shot, 100
Yep.
targets, and all your hunting season. And I've had it 3 seasons, and I still have not had to change the battery. Now, I
Yeah.
said that next time I go hunting, my battery's going to be dead. But
Been there, done that. That's how it was for me the other day. I was out doing the field shoot, and I pulled up my binos, or not my binos, my rangefinder. Sorry, I'm gonna figure it out one of these times. Pulled up my
Yeah.
rangefinder to range something. I hit the button and nothing turned on, and I was like, "What is going on with this thing?" I think another thing that drives me nuts is I let Kevin borrow my rangefinder one year, and I'm not trying to out you or anything, but he took my rangefinder one year and somehow he broke the end cap on it, the battery cap, which is not that big of a deal. I can still get into the battery compartment, obviously, because I've been switching out the batteries. But like for me, like aesthetically, like that's a major flaw if you're going to make it so the battery cap can be broken off, because now I have to like try a little bit harder to get the battery compartment open to be able to change out my batteries. And that's like a huge flaw for me. If you look at like a rangefinder, I should never have to fight to change out the batteries, because you know, if you're out there in those cold weather situations out in Colorado, it's negative 15 degrees. You're hunting elk and you're trying to get a range on a bull. You don't have time to be fighting to get this little cap off. So for it to just break off, like you hadn't even done anything weird to it. I think you were literally just like carrying it in your pocket or something, and the cap broke off it. Like there's no reason why something like that should happen.
Yeah,
So
or especially like I was in North Dakota and it was like negative 40. Like you really want your equipment to work.
Yeah, exactly. So that's like my one like displeasure with the Halos. But I will say, like, Halos are very much entry level rangefinders. For the most part, you know, you can get the ones that cost you $500, $600, $700, but like the XL 1000s, I just looked at them before we hopped on here. They're $140 right now on Amazon. Like that's entry level compared to a lot of your Vortex ones that are running $400 plus. Like it's very entry level. So, you know, if you're just getting into it, like that's a good way to be able to get into a rangefinder for fairly cheap. And you can find them for cheaper on secondhand sites such as Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, eBay. So
Well, didn't you say that there was one Halo that was like $68 right now?
yeah, the Halo XL 450s are running for $69.75, I believe, right now. And I mean, 450 yards is more than enough for most bow hunting application. 450s, so they make 450, 600, 800s, and 1,000, and I think they make 1,200s. So, like, you know, you kind of just based off of like where you're hunting at or where you plan on hunting at. 1,000, I think, is really kind of overkill. You're never going to shoot anything at 1,000 yards. I think the 650s would be perfect for just about any application, unless you're like a long range shooter. But in my personal opinion, if you're a long range shooter, you should probably invest in higher quality glass than what the Halos are. Because I will say, like, having used other people's rangefinders, the glass quality on Halos is not great comparatively. But I don't think that they're like a huge downside. Just for like me personally, I think that I would rather go for higher glass quality and pay a little bit more extra money to be able to know that I can see everything really well. What about
the glass on your rangefinder to me isn't as important as the glass on your rifle or the glass in your binoculars.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. 100%. I'm not using my rangefinder to, you know, look at a deer before I decide if I'm going to shoot it or not. But if I'm looking at a group of deer and at 200 yards, 300 yards, and I'm trying to pick out the one that I need to range, generally speaking, ranging the group is going to do you just fine. But, you know, if you're sitting there and you're looking at this group and you cannot pick out your target through the rangefinder for whatever reason you're doing that, that's an issue. And that's something that, you know, I think that the Halo side kind of lacks on. So, I mean, obviously with hunting stuff, you get what you pay for. If you pay the low end of stuff, which is where the Halos are, super entry level, but they work really good, Halos work well. But if you want that high quality glass, it's going to be really exact. The Vortex, your Leopolds, your Nikons, those are going to be where you're going to want to be at. What about harnesses? What does everybody use for harnesses? Because I know that most of us use harnesses for your binos and rangefinders.
My harness is a redhead.
Okay, so you do just have like a red, and yours is not a cover harness, correct? It's just a straight bino.
No, it's basically a cross strap that goes around your back, over your shoulders, and the binos hang on your chest from it.
And then, David, you use an actual rig, correct?
For my binos and stuff?
Yes.
I use just a bino harness, the Vortex, you know, standard one. And then so my rangefinder came with a little belt loop case. So I just run the bottom strap that clicks into my harness, through the belt loop part, and I keep my, rangefinder on with my bino harness. So it looks like a
Go ahead.
setup, but it was just still just, the little tiny pack that came from my rangefinder, and then just the bino harness that came with the binocs.
Yeah.
And like I said, so I've got that 1300, rangefinder, and then I got that 10x42. It came in a combo kit, and they're, I don't need 1300 yards at all, but that combo kit, it was still like right under $500 for both of them.
Yeah. So I've been on a tear for the last couple years of buying Alps Outdoor stuff. I think they make really good quality gear. So this year I was looking for a harness because I've always wanted a harness to be able to carry my binos in, and I've never really. I had a one kind of like what Kevin was explaining a minute ago for a couple years, but I bought it secondhand. It never really fit me right. I found that the binos were always sagging like super low. I was like, I might as well just use a strap, a neck strap.
Those were stretched.
Yeah, all the where, but
Yes.
So I ended up investing in these Alps Outdoors bino harnesses, and then I bought a rangefinder case that they make. And the cool part about these ones is the first of all, the harness itself has a lens cloth in it. And I know a lot of them do now, but that was like a super big selling point for me because I can never keep lens cloths where I can find them. I always lose them. And this one's tied into the pack, so I can't lose it unless I break it. But another cool part about this pack is it has MOLLE weave on it, so I can actually weave my pouches onto it like a military weave. So my rangefinder is actually attached to the side of my binos, so that like I don't have to run it through the side rig. And then like I can get another one for the bottom. So like they also make a bear spray holster. I could put bear spray on the bottom if I needed to. And then on the other side, it has a really thin, or not thin, but really tight, like pouch that you can put all kinds of stuff in. Like I've used it to hold my release. I've used it to hold, and primarily what I use it to hold whenever I'm hunting is I use it to hold my grunt tube because I use my grunt tube a lot. And being able to have it readily accessible right on my chest where I'm not having to look around for it or anything has been super important for me this year because I've used the hell out of my grunt tube all year. So I found that that's been a really good help for me being able to keep my stuff in. And then I'm able to tuck in my phone into the actual rig itself. It has a secondary pocket that I can tuck my phone into, so I can keep everything on me right there on my chest.
Yeah, I just keep my grunt tube in my backpack. I mean, I'm not a huge, I 90% of the time don't even blow on my grunt tube or nothing. Or my, bleak can. I most of the time just kind of let, nature take its course. But if I have a buck I see and, he's kind of come in, kind of dancing around, don't know if he's going to make it all the way, then I'll kind of give him one little soft hit. Other than that, I don't use mine.
So I have really avoided this year blind calling as much as what I can. But I have called in a lot of deer this year. And we'll kind of talk about calls here in just a little bit, but I think that that's an underlooked piece of equipment is the kind of calls that we use. But go ahead, because I know that somebody else had started talking. No? Am I crazy?
I don't know. Yeah.
I thought that Kevin started to chime in.
Nope.
Okay, go ahead, JP.
That's crazy.
I didn't have anything.
Oh, okay. I'm an idiot then. My bad. What kind of packs does everybody use? I think this is like a super important, not like super important, but I think this is going to be like a really interesting side to hear because I think that we all kind of went a different route with our packs, and I think that it's going to be fun to hear what everybody uses.
For my pack, I use a Field Line Pro Series. It's got like 12 pockets on it. It's really nice. I can strap a rifle or a bow to it, and it's got one of the waist straps as well to help evenly distribute the weight on it.
I got an old. I've probably had this same pack 15 years or so. And it's just Remington, you know, it's a Walmart special. It's probably got 12 or so pockets. I can strap a rifle to the side. I can't strap a bow to it, but it's got a couple just accessories clips that I can strap stuff to. So I usually, depending on what stand I'm sitting in, I'll strap a seat cushion to it, or sometimes I'll strap my camera arm to it if I've already got, you know, bibs and such in the pack, you know, for when I get there and I get cold later.
And that's a full size pack.
Yeah, it's full. I mean, I got, like he said, I got the chest clip, I got a waist clip. I mean, I can fit my bibs, my heavy coat, my Ozonics in there. I can fit, you know, I have another pocket where I can fit all my grunt call, my, you know, bleak can. I've got another pocket for just scents. Like, I can fit most of everything. And it was like a $20 pack I bought 15 years ago. And it's almost worn out. Like, one of the clips is one of the buckles has got one side broken, this or that. Like, I need to go get a new one, but it ain't wore out yet. I ain't buying a new one yet.
I understand that. Dad's kind of in the same position as you. He's had the same pack for like as long as I've been hunting.
Mine's just an old redhead pack. I don't know, it's like 8 pockets in it. And I mean, it's not really it goes over your shoulders like a backpack, but it's more like just an overgrown fanny pack, really.
It's a waist pack is what he uses.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's holds everything I've ever needed.
Yeah.
I've got quite a bit of, I mean, I usually stack it pretty tight, so it's got a lot of crap in it, so. But it also, I like the fact that it's not huge because I don't overpack it to where I just weigh myself down. And I mean, there's straps on the outside to where I've carried coveralls down there with me strapped to it. I've carried coveralls and the jacket strapped to it. I've had seat cushions strapped to it. I mean, you name it. I mean, with the straps that are on it, helps out so much because you can just strap so much to it. And plus, if it's bad weather, it actually even has a raincoat to put on it just to kind of keep it dry.
Yeah. So I have a hybrid pack, and I thought so the reason why I bought the pack that I bought was literally because it was a hybrid, because whenever I started hunting, I used a full size backpack, and obviously like I hunted with Kevin, my dad, for years. And I always watched him using this waist pack, and I was like, that's a super cool concept because I'm like super big on weight. I'm a fat dude, so I don't want to have to carry in any more weight than what I have to. So if I have a waist pack, I have a size limit that I can work with. But I use an Alps Outdoor Pathfinder pack. And the cool part about it is that it folds out into a full-size bag. So I can roll down the actual like large compartment, and it zips into the smaller compartment, and it's completely out of the way. You never see it. You never know it's there until you need to fold it out. But it carries my rifle. It can carry my bow. What I've usually used it for, if I've shot a deer and, you know, I'm wearing all my layers, I can strip down my layers and put it into the full-size pack, and then I can strap my tree stand onto the back because I use a climber. So I can strap it onto my pack, so I'm not using those uncomfortable the uncomfortable shoulder straps that come on tree stands on my climber. So I found that pack to be super invaluable. It's got 8 pockets in it as well. But the biggest selling point for me was the fact that I could fold it out into a full-size pack from a waist pack. And
that is real nice. Because the early bow season, when it's warm, I've usually just got a floppy backpack because I don't have nothing in it anymore. And then come this time of year, my pack's jammed full, you know. So being able to fold it down would be real nice.
It's a super cool pack. And like Kevin's, it has the little rain cover for it. So you can flip out your little rain cover and put your little rain cover on it. So your stuff that's inside of it's not getting wet. And it's got plenty of room. I mean, I carry my camera arm, my rattle bag, extra grunt tubes, because I use grunt tubes a lot, obviously. My scents, fluid head, all kinds of stuff that I use for like filming and like my gutting kit and everything. I keep it all in that pack, and there's plenty of room. I used to keep my tags in the pack as well whenever I used to use paper tags. Put them in a little plastic bag and stick them in there. And I mean, it was always fine. It always worked really well. So that's been like a really nice piece of kit. I've had it since 2016. It's been on a lot of hunts, and it's held up really well. It doesn't have any holes. It looks almost brand new, honestly. Let's talk about calls next. So I know Kevin and we are like super big on calling. And then Dave, I know that you carry calls and use them occasionally. And then Jeffrey, I really don't even know if you use calls or not. And I've been hunting with you, so I'd like to see where everybody kind of fits in.
I've got a couple calls, but I don't ever use them. I've never had luck with deer calls myself.
So, like, a little bit back to the packs and leading into the calls.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Like, I've got a pack for every hunting I'm doing. I've got a different pack for my coyote hunting. I got a whole turkey vest pack for my turkey hunting, this and that. And those I do load down with calls. You know, I do call a lot, obviously, with coyote hunting, turkey hunting, this and that. But so I've got a different pack for every hunt. So there ain't tearing down the bag. I just grab a pack and go for each hunting I'm doing.
Dad, what about you for calls? Because I know that you love using calls, so I'd like to hear what your thoughts are.
I like calls more than I do like rattling. I don't rattle a whole lot because I've never had great luck with it. But I mean, even this year, I don't think I would have been able to harvest the buck I harvested this year if it wasn't for having a call on hand. I mean, but
You drew him back in.
What's that?
Because you drew him back in, didn't you?
Twice.
Yeah, that's the only time I've went ahead and used a call.
I mean, I've actually once before, years ago, when I first got my first Primos, the buck roar. Hunter was with me that year, and I called in a really nice 8-point and it was just, I was trying something new. I'd always use calls, but very rare, very seldomly. Usually only whenever I saw something, I'd try to, turn them or something, but that was about it. And I was always very cautious with how much I used it. But there was one year where I did a whole lot of calling, and with the buck roar, I was actually able to pull in an 8-point that I don't know if I would have ever seen without the calling I did. So it kind of got me to where, I've got to have a grunt call with me. And I have the buck roar. I used to have antlers I carried with me, but now I just have a little rattling bag. I've got the Primos, the original can, estrus bleak can. And I actually have another call. Also, I have a Flexstone little mouth call that I've never really used a whole lot, but it looks really cool. I mean, it's not a bad sounding for a little bitty call compared to any other call. It looks it reminds me more like a little duck call or something because it's tiny, but it doesn't do too bad, but I haven't used it a whole lot. So I'm not really comfortable with it to go, just trying it yet, but I'll probably start using it more whenever I actually, have littler bucks. I'm going to try to start using it just to see what I can't get reaction wise out of them for getting more comfortable and familiar with the call itself.
So, and Kevin knows this, but I have this really bad tendency of buying a new grunt tube every single year. I think I've bought a new grunt tube like almost every single year that I've been deer hunting. I'm just fascinated with deer, with like being able to call in deer. But I switched over. When did we get those? The extinguishers, the illusion system extinguishers, like 3 years ago. 4 years ago.
No, I think it's more like 4 years ago.
I think it's been close.
Let's see.
It was 3 years ago because it was after I got back from Korea. It was between Korea and
Yes,
Blitz.
You're right.
But
because it was that was the year I lost mine after Caden got his doe.
It's okay. David found it for you and then he threw it away. But those calls are phenomenal. And I've had a fair few times that I've called in deer, but this year has been like crazy for me for calling in deer. And the cool part about the illusion systems is, with those buck roars and everything that Primos makes, they make fantastic calls, don't get me wrong. But the illusion system, I can change the pitch from the outside of the call with a slider, and I can change the pitch all the way down to exactly how mature of a buck do I want it to sound like. It's like on the buck roar, for example, I know because I've owned a buck roar and a magnum roar, you have young buck and trophy buck. Well, I don't want to use a young buck on another young buck because he's probably not going to respond very well to it. He may come in a little bit kind of curious, but that's where you're going to get like some of your younger bucks to respond and a lot of your older bucks to respond. And then whenever you get up into that trophy buck range, you're going to scare off anything that's below about 4.5 years old. So with this extinguisher, I'm able to slide it down and I can go, you know what? I want this deer to sound like it's a 2.5-year-old buck chasing a doe. And I can slide it down to, you know, a little bit beyond the doe section, give it probably about 1/2 inch. And I can, you know, send out some of those tending grunts. And then I can immediately slide it up to a doe and send out an estrus bleat instead of having to tear apart this call in the tree stand and try to fumble around and also be watching what's going on around me. I can do it all within a couple seconds and be sending out more calls. And that call's been invaluable to me this year. For example, I'm going to keep going back to the buck that I shot because that was just a crazy day in general. But after I shot at him once and missed, and in the video you can see he's kind of walking away from me, and I sent out 2 little buck grunts, and he turned immediately and came right back in after I'd shot at him at 20 yards. So, you know, that was something that was super important for me, being able to find something that worked out in the long term.
Yeah, I will say one thing as far as the one. What was that one call that you had? The big one you said it a while ago. It's not the buck roar, but the other one.
Can you say that one more time? I'm sorry.
That one call you had, not the buck roar, but the other big buck roar,
The Magnum roar.
Magnum roar. The thing I didn't like about it, from hunting in the same section of farm as you, is, to me, it was almost overkill. There were multiple times where you'd hit it, and I'm like, holy crap, there's not a deer in 3 states that's going to come this way now. Because it would just be extremely loud sometimes through the woods. So if you had a deer that was just out of sight, or that you hadn't noticed yet that was close to you, you were going to scare him away with that one. In my thoughts.
Yeah, the Magnum roar, the weirdest part about the Magnum roar was, you know, I called in 1 deer at that thing in like the 1.5 years that I used it. And whenever you would extend that tube all the way out, it was like 2 foot long. I felt like I was using an elk, like a bugle for an elk, more than what I was using a grunt call. And it was like ridiculous. You know, that was like one thing that kind of got me away from it, was how loud it was to extend it. And it was just, there was no need for it to be as big as what it was. It was just a ridiculously large call for something that didn't need to be the size that it was. So I guess we'll move on now, and this is going to be more for Dave and I, sadly, which is going to be like the recording equipment that we've been using this year, because a lot of people have asked us about what we're using and how we like it and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, Dave and I have very different takes on what we've used this year.
Yeah, I've had many people, when I go post pictures of that and they see my camera set up, they're like, holy cow, like, how much you spend on that, this and that? Like, you know, that's crazy good setup. And I'm just like, I literally got on Amazon, bought like the cheapest camera there was that had an external microphone, you know, and between it and buying a tripod, not my camera arm, but just it and a tripod for it when we're hunting the huts, I spent just under $200. And it came with the external, you know, microphone. It came with a 32 SD card. It came with like a bunch of different cords where I can hook it up and like do playback video on TV or computer, or, you know, I mean, it came with everything. Like I said, it's a foreign brand, some Amazon brand, but it's got 4K, you know, picture quality and like 32 zoom. And I spent under $200 for it and an Amazon tripod.
So I want to point something out that you said there. So you bought a 4K camera, and that's super important. So I bought a 1080p camera, which is, there's not really a huge difference between 1080p and 4K
Really.
whenever it comes down to quality of the video. But there's a lot more that you can do editing wise with a 4K video than what you can with a 1080p. If I blow that video up to zoom in, like if you're doing editing, like what I'm doing for us, the difference between a 1080p blown up video versus a 4K blown up video is very different. And that's something that people don't really think about whenever they buy cameras. So if you can spend that extra, you know, $50-$60 to be able to get a 4K camera that shoots either 30 or 60 frames per second, you're going to notice a huge difference in your video quality. And, we'll end up later this year, maybe we'll do like a little reel or something. I can even set it up tonight to post onto Instagram to show like the difference between a 4K and a 1080p blown up the same amount. It's crazy the difference that you can get in video quality out of those two.
And with you doing video editing, so at first I was like, hey, I'm looking through my screen and I'm looking all the way, 200 yards across the field and I see this deer, but I can't really see it on camera. And I started to zoom, but with the zoom quality and video editing you're doing, I quit doing that. So like when I'm videoing it, like I can barely see it, but I know once it hits your computer where you're going to edit it, it blows it up into a perfect quality picture. And I know where you said where you're trying to edit videos where you zoomed in, it made it a nightmare for you to take the picture quality and get it right.
Yeah, if you're going to be doing any kind of editing, don't zoom in with your camera, please, for the love of God, unless you're not going to do any in-edit zooms for yourself, which is what I recommend doing. Don't zoom in because it is awful to work around. Because as soon as you go to zoom in, it's going to mess up all your frames. And I've worked through that on multiple videos now of trying to just fix frames so that it looks okay, so that I can actually push out a video. So I highly recommend if you're going to be doing. Go ahead.
That's like you said when you did my kill shot on my bow, on my buck with my bow early on, and you did your kill shot. It was like you had my video completely done in like 30 minutes, and you spent 2 hours just getting to your shot.
Yeah. Whenever you go into zooming and everything, with your phone, or like not your phone, but like with your camera, and then you also add in trying to do it on a computer side, it does all kinds of wonky things in editing. So highly recommend if you're going to be doing editing or you're going to hire somebody to edit your videos or whatever you're going to do, if you're going to be doing any post-shot editing, don't zoom in with your camera. It's going to be super tempting to do because you're going to want to get right in there on the action and see what's going on.
Well, you want
Don't
to
do
see
it
that
to
you're
yourself.
you want to see that you're getting it, but
Yeah.
if you can barely see it, you don't realize how much you're actually getting.
Now, this is also, I'm giving you guys this advice as a self-filmer. If you have somebody that's filming for you, you could probably get away with zooming because they can do all the post-shot tracking and everything, and you can get away with a lot more than what you can if you're self-filming. Because if you're self-filming, you've got to make sure that you're backed up or you're zoomed out enough so that wherever you get that shot opportunity at, you still have the deer in frame. You also have to make sure that as soon as you get that shot off, you're ready to start tracking and all this other stuff. So if you're just adding in one more thing by zooming in that camera, you're just adding one more thing for you to fight after the shot. If you're self-filming, if you got somebody else filming for you, then you could probably get away with it. But that's just my 2 cents on video editing side. So I took a super cheap way into this year. My setup itself cost me just under $200 as well. But I wanted something that was going to be super lightweight. I said that I bought a 1080p camera. I paid like $50 for it, and I used it like for a week, and I hated it. So I stopped carrying it. It was too bulky. The batteries didn't last long enough. It just really bothered me. So I started filming with my phone. I use an iPhone 13 Pro, and I went into my settings, and I set it to 4K resolution at 60 frames per second. And my camera arm that I've been using, because I can't hunt on the ground where I live at, I've been using a 4th Arrow baton arm with a fluid head on it, and I can mount my phone straight to my arm with the fluid head, and I can literally I've put out, what I feel like is some great video just using my cell phone, which is something that I'm going to carry into the woods with me anyway. And somebody's going to say, oh, well, what if your phone dies? I use a battery bank, a power bank, and I carry it down there with me. I hook it straight onto my my tree arm, and I just run a cord around my tree arm, and I just plug it into my phone whenever my phone gets low. There's ways around those kind of things. You just have to come up with solutions for yourself.
Yeah, and so like almost going back to the packs again. I do have to carry a whole separate for my camera, but my pack ain't big. It's just big enough. I fit the camera in there. I can fit my iPad in there to play back video if I do make a kill shot. And then I got like the few accessories for my camera. And in there, I keep power pack It's got my phone cord. It's got a cord to where if my microphone was going to die, I can charge it up. While I can charge up. Besides the fact I can't plug in and actually charge my camera batteries, I can charge like everything I have with me in the stand.
Yeah. Another super important thing to think about if you're going to start self-filming and you're going to use a camera is make sure you spend some time to learn the camera. I'm going to pick on David here for just a second, just because I love him. He went out and he laid down some beautiful video of this buck that he shot. And the footage is awesome and everything looks great. You guys will see this on the video. And there is not a cent
My mic wasn't all the way
of
plugged
audio
in.
on it for the entire
My mic wasn't plugged in.
Yeah, I got like an hour of footage from him, and I think 5 minutes of it had audio. So like making sure that your equipment.
Shot later on when I realized my microphone was messed up.
Yeah, so like making sure that your guys' equipment, you guys know how it's working and everything, and working out all those kinks before you get up into the tree stand is going to be super invaluable, because obviously like we can't go back and recreate that moment. How long had it been since you last shot a deer, Dave?
Before that day, like before the day I killed that one, it had been like years before I killed a buck.
Yeah, so like David got really excited, and the video of him getting excited was awesome.
I won't ever relive that excitement, and the only way I've thought of maybe voiceover audio to give that excitement is now it's 20 degrees outside. I need to go stand outside in the cold, just shorts and no shirt for like 20 minutes. So I'm shivering and cold. So you have that, stutter and, shiver in your voice.
Yeah, because that video is awesome.
60 degrees.
So, making sure that your equipment's going to work the way that you think it's going to work whenever you get up in the tree, and knowing your little workarounds is going to be super important. So making sure that you can pan the ways that you want to pan if you're using a tree arm or a tripod or whatever, and then making sure that your audio equipment is working whenever you get up in the tree, you're going to cut down on the chances that something happens. I'm not going to say that you're going to stop it, but you'll cut down on the chances that something happens. And I think that's super important.
And make sure that you range the spot that you realize that your camera will reach before you actually have a buck walk in there and shoot at it and go, oh, I was wrong on the yardage.
I don't want to hear.
I did that with my shot too. I almost shot too low because I was like, oh, that's 30 yards. And I shot and the buck was like 40 yards.
Well, he was talking about me because that's exactly what I did. Is my buck, I thought that he was 30, he was 20, and I sent one right over his back. It's okay. At least I didn't shoot 8 arrows at 2 deer and walk around them and pick them up and shoot at them again and not hit a single deer. So anyway, we'll move on from that. What kind of knives and everything do you guys use?
Cold.
The
truth hurts a lot,
right now.
Speaking of stabs, let's talk about knives. So knives are like a super, like I think a lot of people use the same kind of stuff on knives, but I want to hear what you guys have found works really well and what doesn't work very well for your processing.
Gutting or processing?
So
both. You hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Okay.
David.
let's say so. I just used this one little pack my mom got me for Christmas like 5 years ago. It's like I think it's called Camulus. It's just a little flip case deal, and it's got like a fillet knife. It's got kind of like a little tool like knife, almost like a pocket knife, but doesn't fold. And then it's got a big blade with a gripper on it, and like a saw, which perfect world I'd buy, which like what Jeffrey bought this year whenever he was gathering gear up. I'd buy the Outdoor Edge of the same exact fold kit because I think their blade's a little better. My cheap Walmart brand mom bought me has always done me good, and I've sharpened them one time in like 5 seasons, and they still just cut right through it like butter.
Dad? You use the same stuff for like 20 years.
I love my T-handled Gerber knife. I mean, for gutting anyway. I mean, that just works great. I mean, I used to have an old Western, I don't know, some kind of Western Bowie knife thing, and it worked okay. But ever since I got that, it's a really short blade, big round blade knife with a gut hook on it from Gerber, T-handle. And it's got a small bone saw in it too, to where you cut through the pelvis bone, cut through the rib cage. That thing, it works good. It's small, it's compact. And being the T-handle, I don't have to worry about my hand slipping. That's probably the biggest thing that I like, is the T-handles, because my hand doesn't feel like, I'm never worried about, hope I don't slip over anything and cut my hand open, because that's the last thing I need. And then of course, like David mentioned earlier, fillet knife. As far as for skinning and stuff, I go straight to my fillet knife. If I'm skinning one out and doing all the butchering and stuff, I prefer fillet knife. And I use both a 4-inch and a 6-inch blade, or 4 and 8-inch blade.
Jeffrey?
I've got, like David was saying, I've got the Outdoor Edge set, and it's got all the knives I could possibly need. And I didn't have any issues with gutting the 2 deer I did. I ended up gutting mine and my mom's with it. Well, David did the mom's. But like, it's got the caping knife.
I got tired of waiting. That's what it was.
Yeah, I know. It's got a gut hook, skinner knife. It's got a boning fillet knife. It's got a wood saw bone. It's got the T-handle, so when you're going at the rib cage, you don't have to worry about it slipping out of your hand or anything, like Kevin was saying. And it's got a sharpener with it, so if my blades ever go dull, I can just sharpen them in the field. Don't have to worry about it. It's a pretty good set so far. I haven't had any issues with it. I would highly recommend it.
So I use a combination of actually everybody's here. So I use the same Gerber knife that Kevin was talking about, and the same Gerber bone saw that he was talking about, and I love those things. I've never had a problem with them. They work every single time. They cut like butter. I don't think I've ever sharpened a single one of them, and I've never had a problem with them. One thing that I know that Kevin used, I don't know if the other two use, I use a rib cage spreader.
Oh, I have that too.
To be able to spread out the rib cage, it makes it a little bit easier for gutting to be able to get up in there, because I like to get like as far up the jugular and up the neck as what I can to be able to cut stuff off. And that just makes it super easy to be able to get all the way up in there without soaking my clothes in blood, if that's an issue.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
And then I use the same Outdoor Edge processing kit as Jeffrey used. I use the one that just all that mine has a deboning, a caping knife, and a skinning knife. And my only issue that I have with these things, other than the fact that I try to take my finger off with them, is the fact that they did not bevel the back of the blades. And I don't know if that's just like an overlook on their part or what, but I find myself like putting my thumb on the back of the blades or whatever for certain cuts, especially like, because I'm doing my own processing this year. So like if I'm, cutting my rounds out, I'm putting my finger on the back of the blade to be able to get it a little bit more stability. I feel like I'm getting more stability. I'm probably not, but it makes me feel better. And I'm constantly like tearing my fingers up with the backs of these blades, and they're like cutting my hands open to the point where I'm like bleeding because of how sharp the backs of the knives are. And that just drives me nuts, because I feel like there's a simple way to be able to fix that in the factory, and they're just not doing it. And I don't know if it's just because, I didn't pay $100 for these knives, but I just feel like that's something that could have been solved at the factory level, so you're not pushing out something that's going to end up being potentially dangerous for people. But I will say, going back to what I said a minute ago, go ahead.
Well, even like with yours, you got this kit, this, that, you don't want to change it up maybe, because the knives work great. It's just the back of the blade bothers you. You could probably just take a file and wear it down enough.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I could. But in my opinion, I just feel like I should, as a consumer, I shouldn't have to worry about that.
I know. I feel
like it should just come set and ready to go. But I think like
that should have been an in-house fix.
Yeah. One thing I will praise them for is these things are like razor sharp. So I'll kind of give everybody a story. After I shot my buck and I was hanging him, I went to sharpen the knives, and the kit comes with a knife sharpener, and I'm an idiot and I was being lazy. So I just was holding the knife sharpener in my hand. I was just running the blade through it, not really thinking anything. I was looking at the deer, thinking about how I was going to start and do everything. And I ran the blade down through the fine edge one more time, and I ran it all the way across my ring finger on my left hand, all the way across the knuckle. And I went to the hospital because it was pretty deep laceration. And they told me it was like an 8-hour wait. And I was like, not that worried about it. Like, it is what it is. I just put a Band-Aid on it and went back to work. And once I got back and I was like doing everything, it started to bother me. And now they're pretty sure that I've like messed up my hand in some way. They don't know if I have tetanus or if I may have cut a tendon in my hand or what, but it's sharp enough that it'll inadvertently slice you wide open if you're not careful. So that is one thing that they did really well on, is these things hold an edge very well. So I think that's
It's an
super
outdoor
edge. Yeah, exactly. Outdoor edge. And it tried to go indoors on my hand. So I think that stuff like that is stuff that is, I think that having a good set of quality knives is something that's super important, but also something that's lightweight. Like, there's no way that if we were to go backpack hunting, I would ever want to carry those outdoor edge knives because they come in a bulky case that just takes up a lot of space. So like having a backup set of knives that you're comfortable with taking in, like, they're not heavy, but space is everything if you go to backpack in a backcountry, and you don't want to be backpacking in with a bulky case that really doesn't serve any purpose. Like Jeffrey was saying, it's got every knife that he would ever need, but does he need all those knives? Like, I know some of them come with like hatchets. Am I going to use a hatchet on this hunt? Probably not. So stuff like that is super important to know.
Talking about stuff like that is, also I got lucky this season when I took Caden out for a youth hunt. He didn't have his knife with him, and my knife I had left at the house in the sink from whenever I was cleaning my deer. I just got lucky that my old Western was still in the bottom of my pack, because I said, you know what, in case I ever need it, I'm going to take it with me, because you never know what could happen out in the field. And it was still in the bottom of my pack, still sharp, and it did great getting his big buck. Now, I will say the pelvis was a pain in the butt because I didn't want to break out, because you mentioned something else. I do carry a hatchet also. Luckily enough, I didn't have to break it out, but I was thinking about it for a couple minutes on that pelvis on Caden's buck. But I have a little short-handled Gerber hatchet that I carry with me because it fits inside my pack. And as far as other gear, as far as that's concerned, I also carry a set of Gerber pruning shears and a little tree saw thing that comes in it. And David and I actually used it this season to move a tree around and put a camera up during season.
Yeah, I think that like the miscellaneous stuff in your packs is something that you got to kind of come up with for what you're hunting. Because like I carry kind of the same things that he was just saying. I carry a hatchet with me. I carry pruning shears and a saw. But there's also like times and places where you don't need them. Like I now just carry my pruning shears and my saw with me because I can't cut anything where I'm at unless it's on the tree that I'm actually hunting in. So I'm not going to carry my hatchet with me because it's just bulk extra space. It's extra weight that I don't want in my pack that I don't have to have there, even though ounces equal pounds. And I have a very military mindset on this kind of stuff of like, if I have that in my pack, how much is that going to limit me later? And then like another super important thing to think about from like the military side is 1 is none, 2 is 1, 3 is 2. So like the knife thing that Kevin was talking about, it's super important to have multiple sets of knives possibly, because if something were to happen to one, for whatever reason, I go to pull out that Gerber gut knife and I pull out and the only thing that I have is a handle because all of a sudden my blade broke off in the pouch. I can't use that knife anymore, or I could, but it's just going to make it that much harder. I'd rather just go to a backup knife. Yeah, and dangerous. So like that kind of stuff is something to think about as well. Does anybody have anything else to add for today for equipment?
Oh, I mean, you always got like I always carry rope in my pack.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing fancy. It's a small rope for who knows what. I mean, you never know when you might need a rope.
Yes.
My rope has a carabiner on each side, because even then, if I need a carabiner for something else, I can take it off the rope and use it. I keep like carabiners in my pack and my rope, and like you said, kind of hatchet. For the most part, I always keep those. The reason we use Kevin's is my hut. I always almost over carry when I go hunting. But it's like the second you're down there, you need it, and like if it could be a crunch time, like I'd rather carry it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Right.
Another
yeah.
thing I carry. Another thing I carry, which a lot of people don't carry, I just carry it because you never know. I've never had to use it since I've actually started carrying it, but I carry just a little like Leatherman tool knife thing. I don't know what exactly to call it. You know, with ones with the have the pliers on them and this and that and something else.
Multi-tool.
Multi-tool. There you go. My brain wasn't working
Yep,
on
I always
that.
carry one of
Getting
those
late.
too.
It
Well,
just
no-
it's something simple that I throw in the pack. It doesn't take up much room, and I roll on.
Another thing that I usually carry that is more, I'm probably not going to anymore because I have gear for when it rains. But if you don't have rain gear, another thing you might want to think about carrying is ponchos in case it rains while
Ponchos,
you're
like
down
you
in
had.
the
Yeah, I invested years ago in bought it whenever I was in Korea, but I bought like an Under Armour rain jacket, and that thing has been awesome because I got it like one size too big, so I can throw it over all my clothes. Because I hate ponchos just because of how bulky that they are. I feel like they are super loose fitting, and
noisy.
I don't like that, and they're noisy. This thing's super quiet because it's an Under Armour. It's actually built for hunting. It's their hunting line stuff, but it is sleek. It's not very noisy. Scentlock makes some great rain weather gear for that kind of stuff. But I think that like you never really know exactly what you need whenever you're hunting until you're hunting. You're never going to have all the equipment that you need. No matter how much time you spend out in the field, there's always something that you need or that you want that you don't have. Like one piece of equipment that we're trying to add for next year is the sled. We're trying to add like a snow sled to our arsenal of stuff so we can pull deer out with it. Because dragging deer through trees and this, that, the other sometimes really sucks. But if you have a sled that makes it a little bit easier.
But the
That's-
sled will stay either in a hut or in a
Just
hut
have
or
it
up at the
close
house.
by to go get.
Yeah. Well, I'm not talking like equipment's not necessarily everything you're carrying down there with you. It's anything that you're using to hunt minus your weapons.
So
So
always have a plethora of hand warmers.
we
Yeah.
talked about that earlier.
That's another thing I have a lot of. I've
So-
even got some of the
I
feet warmers as well.
Really don't hand warmers or nothing because my luck is I always forget about it until like it's about time to go hunting, and it feels like they don't get hot until I'm already going back up to the house. So it's always
the
use
best part is whenever you forget
Okay,
about them. Go ahead.
you don't warm up beforehand. Yeah,
That's the best part about them, though, is that you like forget about them and then you go out for that afternoon hunt and it's like 90 degrees out and you stick your hand in your pocket and it's like the Sahara Desert inside your pocket. It's like the best part. I washed my clothes earlier this year whenever I first got down here before deer season, and I washed all my stuff and I pulled my clothes out and I had like 4 or 5 hand warmers in the bottom of my washing or in the bottom of my dryer because I didn't even know that I had them in my pockets of my jacket. I overuse hand warmers, but that's because I don't get like nearly good enough circulation in my hands. So I guess we'll end off with one question. This question is going to be very controversial. And I want everybody that watches this video, if you made it this far, to go down to the bottom in the comment section and let us know what yours is. But what is everybody's go-to snack in the stand? You can only have one pick. You cannot tell me, well, it's either this, or this, because that's not a snack. That's a... If you can pick one thing, what's your go-to?
Usually,
if I could
Usually-
snack still.
go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody all at once.
Said if I could snack still because I got these Invisalign, I have to take my teeth out to try to snack. It's always been Summeridge in a Ziploc bag.
Jeff?
For me, for the most part, usually when I get snacks, I don't know why I did this, and it might be mainly because I always did it with my grandpa. I'd always get a bag of chocolate-covered donuts, is what I always did. And I think it's more or less because I always did it with my grandpa, and it's just something that we shared.
When you said grandpa, I thought you were going to say moon pies.
No, I can't stand moon pies. He loves them, and I don't like them.
Now, see, if I went back to what your all's pawpaw would always get, it'd be Three Musketeers.
Yeah.
That was always his go-to. I don't know how many years I have a Three Musketeers hanging out of my mouth, and I'd go, "Crap, there's a deer."
I think my go-to is another one of Pawpaw's favorites, but zebra cakes. I don't know why. I guess I'm just a little fatty, but zebra cakes are kind of my go-to. And I think like the reason why I've stuck with zebra cakes is because I feel like, and this is probably just like me being speculative, but I feel like they are some of the quietest snacks to get out. You know, they've got like the little wrapper on them or whatever that's a little bit loud, but they don't smell. They're almost completely scent free. And I think they taste really good, and they're good smashed or like whole. You know, you get like a cosmic brownie or anything like that, or like
And if you sit on it and it's done.
Yeah, like a ding dong or whatever. Like if you smash those, they're done for. But a zebra cake, like I can still eat it if it's smashed. It's not going to bother me too much, and I think that it still tastes the same.
You just say you're a ding dong.
It's not like
Yes,
that.
he did.
No, I said if I sit on my ding dong, but you know, same thing.
Oh, that just got worse.
I don't usually have that problem if it's too cold out, though.
Okay, this is going too
Easy now.
It's okay. It's far enough back in the podcast that YouTube will never see it. For those of you guys that made it this far, if you report this video, stop. Get help. But yeah, I think that there's like so many different snacks that are just so good in the stand, but I think my go-to is definitely zebra cakes. I did not know that Pawpaw liked Three Musketeers, though. That's funny. I had no idea that was like his go-to.
Oh yeah, we always had Three Musketeers growing up. Now I can't say growing up, and he does it. He did it the same way I've always done it, and that's you go back after Halloween and you buy some leftover Halloween candy.
Yeah, half off.
You get it on half off price. You're good to go. That's why I do it. But my go-to is actually I prefer getting like snack sticks or something like that, and beef sticks, because those actually quench my hunger, and I don't have a bunch of wrappers to open and carry back with me.
Put summer sausage into a Ziploc is the noise, and it's heartier and more filling.
Yeah, that's why I like it, because I'm not eating 15 candy bars, because they're usually snack size candy bars. So
there's nothing wrong with eating 15 candy bars. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah. And you talk about being fatty.
Exactly. That's how I know.
I just don't like sweets anymore.
See, I wish that I could say that. I'd probably weigh about 50 to 60 pounds less than I do, but I'm a fatty, and I'm okay with that.
Well, that's why I go with donuts. It's not really as sweet as just straight candy.
Lie again.
No, donuts.
This man's worse than zebra cakes.
This man said I get chocolate donuts, but it's not as sweet as like candy. What are you talking about? It's a donut. I bet you.
Chocolate.
Hang on. I'm about to pull up some numbers here on the computer. Hang on for just a second.
Me, it's
that needs
not
to end the
as sweet.
podcast then, because
Hang
Chocolate
on.
right there says
Hang
put
on.
5 more pounds. The word
chocolate
chocolate
donut
means-
Hostess calories.
Now the question is, Jeffrey, are we talking like a 6-pack of those? Or are we talking like a full-on bag?
Oh, he's talking full bag. He's talking full bag.
All right.
Oh, now I
Hang
can tell you
on.
right now, Hunter's 2 cakes are going to be a whole lot less than what that whole bag is of donuts.
I wasn't talking about necessarily calories. I was talking about like the flavor and the taste. It doesn't seem as sweet as like.
Well, yeah, 'cause you're eating bread and then straight chocolate.
That's
You're
my
eating like
point.
80 of them. Oh my god, I hate you.
I wasn't getting at it was less calories or anything like that.
All right, let's see here. There's 5 servings per bag. A serving size is 3 donuts. Okay, so there's about 15 donuts. There's 280 calories. Okay.
Well, I also don't eat the entire bag every sit.
Oh, I
Okay.
would. If
Yeah,
I
that's
have
my
snacks,
issue. That's why I
they're
can't
all-
bring
they're
them.
all back.
Yeah.
All right, zebra cakes calories.
I
Let's
just can't
see
snack any. The reason I haven't had any this year. Well, I can, but it's too much of a pain.
The
Right.
serving size of zebra cakes is 2 cakes. I normally only eat one. I'm a fat boy, but I'm not that fat. And-
One, you mean one bag or one half?
One bag.
One bag, smartass. What are you talking about?
There's usually
I ain't
two
gonna
in a.
eat
Oh,
there's
yeah, I
usually
forgot
two in
about that. You do
package,
usually
isn't
get
there?
2 in them, don't you?
Yeah.
Because like
Oh.
at the shopette, they sell them as singles.
Oh, okay.
So forgive me for not being up to date with how you civilians buy your fucking.
Well, some of us don't go to the convenience store to get our snacks.
All
Some
right.
of us go to
Well,
the grocery store.
anyway, there's 330 calories in 2. So
And then the question is now I think the ones that you get singly at the shopette or whatever you want to call it, I believe those are actually usually bigger than the ones that are in the double pack.
Oh yeah.
okay, cool. So I eat 330 calories versus Jeffrey's. How much was it? Like
280 for every 5.
280 calories for every 5 that he eats. Don't start with me. Anyway, that'll wrap it up for today's episode. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up right there. Anybody have anything to add before we close this out?
No, I think
we're
that pretty
good.
well does it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we'll be back in 2 weeks. I promise it'll be on time next time. This one's a couple days late, but it'll be on time next time for you guys. So we'll see you guys later.